All right, guys, here we are. We have just wrapped up fitting the 48mm KYB fork upgrade to the hog. We're going to get into a somewhat detailed installation video. It all went really well. The kit is awesome. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things with this particular kit and why I went with this option. I did look at sourcing all of these parts separately. However, once you add up the cost of all the parts separately and the fact that the lugs are near on impossible to buy on their own, the cost of this kit just started to make more and more sense. So the two main reasons I went for this kit, it's a T-Tech suspension kit, for those of you who are wondering. The reason I went for this one, two main reasons, is one, it is a complete plug and play option. Like I mentioned in my last video, that if those other forks weren't bent, I wouldn't be doing this. So I wasn't keen on like completely modifying the front end. You see how some people put a single disc and like that's just more work, more money that I don't want to have to spend. I like the standard look of the bike. I like this mudguard down here. I didn't want to change any of that. So this is a complete plug and play option. All of this standard stuff, the parts on the front end, just completely fits straight back up to this new kit. So that's one reason I went this option. And two is this particular fork is custom made for the Tenere application. So if you go down the route of sourcing all the parts separately and get a fork off a YZ250 or a 450 like what I've got sitting over there, you've got to modify the fork, internally lower it. And this fork, the guy who made this kit, he's made it to suit. He's done all the R&D, done the work. So it is custom built for the Tenere application, and it's not just a standard triple S fork. So again, that's why I kind of lent towards this. If you just go, if you're modifying a standard fork and then you kind of add on the cost of the other things that this fork has had done to it, basically ends up being the same anyway. So I was like, why not just drop the 5K, get the kit, and be done with it. So it has got, I'm not an expert on this, so don't quote me on this stuff specifically, but it has what are called PDS bladders inside the chamber. So I believe that changes the spring perch. It also has hydraulic bump stops. So the idea here is, the theory I suppose, is that you can run a slightly softer or a more supple shim stack. So you've got that plushness in the initial part of the stroke, and then the PDS bladders help the mid part of the stroke ramp up, and then you've obviously got the hydraulic bump stop, which is right down in the bottom of the stroke. So if you do get near bottoming it out, it's not a harsh metal on metal bottom out. It should feel quite soft and controlled. So yeah, it's got a bit of extra bling, I suppose, internally, this fork. So like I said, it was just the easiest option. I ordered it, came 7 days later, and it has gone together amazingly well. I am stoked with how well it has gone together. So we will get into that. There's a couple of little things, just little things that are just, you've got to be aware of when you're doing this. It's nothing major. There's a couple of tricky little bits which you'll go through. And just one little modification down here, which we'll get to. I had to take a little bit of material out because the fork's bigger there, just so that's got clearance. But aside from that, literally went together. Like, the quality is next level on this thing. So it definitely is worth the money. And now all we've got left to do is to ride this thing, which will be one of the next videos coming up. Hoping to get out tomorrow to test this thing and see if they're as good as I hope they're going to be.
Okay, like I said, the quality of this kit is next level, and it went together incredibly well. So it's simply just a matter of stripping things down, removing the old forks, removing the triple clamps. Now, the only thing that gets a little bit tricky here, that if you're going to attempt this, you need to be aware of, is removing the ignition barrel off the triple clamp. has some anti-theft bolts that you need to drill out. So aside from that, removing everything is a relatively straightforward process. In case you can't tell, I am not the most mechanically minded person in the world. This is probably honestly a little bit of a stretch for my capabilities. You can see I'm using a barcode shifter here to get this off. Now, this is the best mechanical tip I can give you guys, is if the shifter's not big enough, just put a bit of pipe on the end of it. 9 times out of 10, bang, fucking bang. There we go. You little beauty. Absolutely nailed it. So we drilled those heads off, and now that just pops off. And then bang, bang. Your whole triple clamp is off. Mint. Okay, so yeah, one of the trickiest things, this is the standard triple clamp that had those ignition anti-theft screws in the ignition barrel. That was the trickiest thing, really. Having to remove that was the hardest thing. But a couple of cool things about this new setup: the steering stem bearing already comes pressed on, so obviously I've just got to grease that up to refit that now. Cool little thing there is he does supply the new bearings, and they are the same brand and the same part number as the OEM bearings. So the original races that are in there will work with these bearings. So this bike's nearly brand new, so the races aren't worn or damaged in any way, shape or form. So I don't need to replace them. So I can just keep the races as spares, and these bearings are the exact same part number, so they'll marry up to those races. So I just got to grease that up. I can reuse the top bearing, just re-grease that. And then your bar mounts just bolt straight on. They are just a straight bolt up fit onto this top triple clamp, and then it's obviously got this little bracket here to mount your ignition barrel. So that's what we're going to do now. We'll grease these up, get that fitted, get that ignition barrel refitted, and once that's all in place, then we can slide the forks in. Once we got those bearings greased up, it's simply a matter of just reinstalling everything that we've just removed. So the only tricky little thing there is, like I mentioned, the ignition barrel, because there is just an absolute nest of wires coming off the ignition barrel and up to the controls on the handlebars. It's just a little bit fiddly to kind of pull it around into position with all the wiring loom there, and get it into position to be able to bolt it back onto the triple clamp. So if you had 2 people, it would be a ton easier. It's nothing that's too out of the realms of possibility. It was just a little bit fiddly. So once we got that done, simply a matter of sliding in the forks, remounting up the front wheel, and we are good to go. All right, so this is just one little slight modification that we do have to make. The T-Tech dude sent me this little photo via email, so we just got to take some of the material out down here on this mudguard bracket. Because this fork is a larger diameter, it's obviously 5mm bigger than the little chopsticks. If this fork comes all the way down and bottoms out, that original bracket is going to be too close and it will foul on the collar there. So we just need to take about 7 or 8mm out of this, and then when the fork does bottom out, they'll have enough clearance there to go around this. So we'll just pull these little brackets off now and give them a tune up with the grinder, and we'll be good to go.